Stop concerning yourself with the opinions of your peers, your competitors, because they want you to fail, and so you got to do what you have to do to succeed.
Yes.
I think a lot of players are influenced by the social aspect of poker. The social aspect in terms of like you said, like someone's gonna criticize you for playing in a certain way just because like a computer software program teaches you that this is the optimal way to play. I think there's a way to reverse engineer that.
John Lee of Silver Elephant. I have the great pleasure today to sit next to Andy. I know many of our shareholders and our investors are heavily into poker or interested in poker. So I'll just take the opportunity to ask Andy some questions.
So this is part 2 of our conversation. Last time we talked about John's world of investing, and so this time we're going to allow John to ask me some questions about the world of poker.
Thanks, Andy.
Thanks, John. Yeah.
Well, Andy, I started poker like 2010, 2011. I was very interested in it. And then since then, my work is just taken over. Don't have a lot of time. But Andy, there are some people that spend years at poker and they're just stuck in 1-2s. How do you transition it and sort of progress towards, become high stakes? Is it sort of linearly over time, or there's a couple of breakthroughs? You can just talk about how sort of you separate it from the pack.
I would say personally for me, like I think for everybody it's different in poker, but for me has not been linear financially, but it's been linear educationally. Educationally, when I say that, is that I follow the typical path of the learning curve. What I mean by that is that like when I first started playing poker, I was obviously, like you said, I started 1-2. I started playing limit actually, limit poker. Back 20 years ago, that's the form of poker that was popular. No limit was still not, it didn't blow up yet. And so, I started with 1-2 limit, and then I jumped to 2-4, 3-6,
5-10.
4-8, 5-10, and then when I found no limit, I never turned back to limit. But what I mean that I didn't follow a linear path financially is that if you zoom out on the graph, my financial results are like this,
Okay.
It's super chaotic. Poker is very volatile, and when I'm first starting out, especially, is making all kinds of mistakes and losing all my money, and so for me it's like kind of a rite of passage. Like you lose money when you're first starting out, you lose your buy-in, whatever, you come back again when you have money, you buy in again, and you lose that. But every time you lose, you gain something knowledge-wise. And so as the growth of a poker player, you naturally progress, because the mistakes that you made last time, you're mentally you adjust from that.
Yes.
And so financially you're paying for it. Every day is like constant up and down. I've been doing this for so long that I'm so numb from the variance from the game. Before when I first started, I would really be focused on the results every day, but now I'm more focused on my results for the week or the month or the year. There's no information to be gained in the short term. When I play a session and I'm only being dealt like 20 hands an hour on a fast dealer.
Right.
And in live poker, not on online. Online you can see a lot more, but you're only going to be playing like maybe a few hundred hands a day. And that data, that whatever happens in those hands, it's such a limited sample size.
Right.
And so to be concerned about the results of one day is absurd, because mathematically anything can happen within 100 hands, right? But over the course of thousands of hands, over weeks and months is where you can really see where your mistakes are.
Yes.
And you can analyze and look at your game overall and make adjustments.
And last session I played, I remember I had a set. And the guy was drawing like a flush. I went all in on the flop, and I literally tell the guy, "I have a set. I was just a lot of pot in the money in the middle already." Right. But he still he would still go. He still go out and got bad beats.
Okay.
I'm sure you have a lot of those. How do you keep yourself motivated and just this is not just getting a chance? And how do you kind of sort of like rebound from that and keep yourself interested?
The way I adjusted away from that is looking at it overall. Even if I lose today, if I stick to my strategy, I'm gonna win in the long term. And so I just adjusted my mindset now. It's like when I have the set and I'm up against a draw that has maybe 20 to 30% to win, I try not to stress over about the result of that particular incident, because it's just one incident of many that's going to happen in my career. I want to repeat that scenario over and over again, right?
It's easy to say, yes.
It's easy to say. It takes a lot of training mentally. You have to numb yourself, and when you get it all in and the cards are exposed, you kind of just make peace with it, and you say, hey, you know what? I've already made the decisions to the best of what I can up to this point, and I'm going to let the results run as they may.
And what's frustrating is you could have all the odds, you could doing everything right, including sometimes you're lucked out, you have worse odds but you win.
Right.
But it's just that the big one that really, really matter. Or if you were to play a tournament, it happened to me many times.
I think it's especially painful in a tournament. I feel you on that because like in a cash game, if you lose in that situation, you can like have an opportunity to win the money back by pulling out more money. But in tournament, like your expected value becomes 0 the second you exit. You know, you play for days, and all your equity is riding on one hand where it's like maybe a 60-40 or like a 50-50.
Yes.
And so it definitely takes a mental adjustment to make, you know.
Are there some 2 or 3 principles that you've gone through time that you just learned to say, I would never violate them? You should always stick with those principles or those things you just promise never do on the poker tables.
You know what, John?
Or just too many.
I'll be honest. Like, there's a lot of them that I promise I'll never do, but I keep breaking them. You know.
Yes. Like for example, these cards, right? You talk about when you're on the tilt.
Right.
You just keep playing bad hand. That's exactly what I did too, and I can't help it.
Right. It's a work in progress. It's a work in progress, John. You know, I think it's a lot of the strategies that we ideally want to implement into our game is easier said than done. You know, because we're not robots. You know, I think a lot of the strategies today they try to emphasize what the ideal way to play is under conditions if you're a robot, you know?
Yes.
Poker's a game of reward and punishment, you know, and in psychology what that means is that you'll get punished for certain results, certain decision you make, and you get rewarded for it.
Yes.
And that in tune is gonna, create a chemical response out of you, human, right?
Yes.
Just like investing, if you put your money in something you lose, you're gonna get stung from that, and you're gonna question yourself if what you made was a right or wrong decision. And so in poker, that may alter your behavior on the table. And so, ideally what they want to teach is that not to let those results affect you. And so I think, most modern strategies these days is talking about how to look at poker from an objective point and not let these short-term results affect your game. To keep playing in a way where mathematically is the right move.
But if you keep doing that, somebody will figure you out and then would do something a little bit out of the ordinary, right?
Exactly. That's why I think strategy-wise, there's still a lot of room to insert a lot of creativity and a lot of unpredictability into the game. Is because no matter how people want to say that poker is just like nearly solved, whereas like you run the simulations and you make certain moves and this is the output that you get. When you're playing with the same players like I do, these players understand how you think. They study the same simulations as you do, and then they know like, hey, in this situation you're going to be re-raising with a lot of these type of hands. And so when you insert different variables and you throw in a lot of curveballs, all of a sudden all the information they have goes out the window.
Right.
But they're not able to understand what you're doing.
Right.
That's kind of like where the part of live poker that I love is that element.
Now all of a sudden the guy does something that he's never done before, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly, John. I think it's really interesting that you bring this topic up because one point that I want to bring up is that in poker nowadays, compared to how it was 20 years ago, like there's so much information out there. There's so much resources, trading sites, and I feel like everybody's kind of following a certain strategy these days. They're learning all the same strategies, and they all want to be socially accepted by their peers to be playing a certain strategy because there's a certain kind of judgmental environment that exists in poker. If you do something out of the norm and you're wrong, you're almost like shamed for that. You'd almost like feel embarrassed. Though I made a big bluff.
Right.
That wasn't like what the solvers would. That wasn't like what game theory teaches. Like why would you overbet there? It's stupid.
Right.
But like
you got belittled.
First of all, that's a bad environment for the growth of poker. I feel like any kind of behavior or like gameplay, that a strategy that is implemented that is outside the norm should be encouraged. But at the same time, I also feel like that type of stuff is necessary to build to grow as a player. I think if everybody always just followed how everybody else played according to what modern strategy is teaching, then the game's never going to grow, and like everybody's just going to be playing the same way. And what's interesting about that? The growth of poker really comes with how it's being portrayed in the media, on TV, and how people perceive the game, and new players coming in is what's going to cause the growth of that. And I think that poker's always going to be around because of, like I said, because of the different variables that allow the game to not be solved and not be a black and white thing. People are always going to think of new strategies and these trends that happen. Like the modern strategies they talk about today, like they've changed so much in the last 20 years. Like when the moneymaker days, everybody was doing a certain thing and they thought that this was correct. And I'm sure in 20 more years, they're going to look back at the strategies today and they're going to be like, what were they thinking? Like these guys are crazy, right?
I remember AlphaGo. It's the Google computer that plays the Korean chess games. Exactly. When the computer make a move, it's like, oh my God, you're losing you're losing like so many areas. Why would you ever do that? It turned out it was something planned much more than ahead. So I can definitely see you maybe make a small sacrifice. You lose battle, but you win the war, and the war in that will be ability to get the other guy's chips all in, or some sort of strategy. When the odds play out, you get a lot more bigger payback. Maybe sacrificing a bit of upfront.
Right, for sure. Nothing's set in stone, and just because like a computer software program teaches you that this is the optimal to play, I think there's a way to reverse engineer that. Know that I know that you know that that's how you should play, so I'm gonna do something different.
Right.
And see how you react to that.
And because if you play deep stack, especially, you can experiment with that, right? So and then the outcome is gonna change.
For sure.
I hear. Can you talk about some of these superstitions or some of the things that has worked for you for a while before probably eventually breaks, or even hasn't break, in which case you probably don't want to share that secret?
I'm not that superstitious, but I feel like, coming from Chinese background, like in our culture, it's ingrained in our culture, we're superstitious by nature. And so a little bit of that does rub off on me. And I will say this though about poker is that I feel like energy is huge.
Yes.
We call it qi, right? In Chinese, right? There's a certain energy that you bring when you come to the poker game, and whatever's going on in your life, whatever hardships you're going through, that may affect your game that day. That may affect your mindset and your psychology. Whether that has a direct correlation, I've noticed it in the past, my experience, that on the days where my energy is negative, I have negative results. On the days where I'm feeling it, it just comes naturally. That applies to many points outside of poker as well. You're just going about your everyday life. I feel like maintaining a positive energy and attitude affects your outlook, and it's like the law of attraction.
No kidding. I remember there was one day when my little daughter gave me a pin, like a rabbit, just for the hair clip. And said, "Oh, Daddy, good luck!" Right? I go out, and that was my highest rank score on tournament. Talk about Asians being superstitious. And can you just expand or share a bit of your experience as an Asian in the poker circuit? Has any changed, or even think about it?
I feel very fortunate right now to be able to be in the position I'm in, to be able to have a face and have some influence over poker players in the US, and right now starting in Asia as well. I've recently started working with GG, the poker site, and I'm working with their China market, and I feel very lucky to be able to be in a position, because I feel like more Asians should be out there and should have influence, over what they're passionate about. I'm hoping that in the future more Asians will have this opportunity, and there's going to be more Asian influence, and we're going to bring more players into the game worldwide, and so I feel like as an Asian, it's opportunity that I have to take. If I can make any change in this field that I've been involved in for so long, then it's something I have to be a part of.
And if you haven't discovered poker, what would you have been? Or another way of going at it, are there things that you really want to get into that you have not?
That's a tough one. I think the number one thing that tops in my head is investing. I think that's what interests me is putting your money where work for you. Exactly. I've always been a big believer, as what they say. All the successful people always talk about how you got to make money when you sleep.
That's investment.
It's passive investment. If you're exchanging time for money, you're never going to grow wealth to have financial freedom. And so I've always been a big believer in that. I feel like if I wasn't playing poker, it would be something along those lines, whether it's real estate, investing in the market, finding a way to not have to sit in the office.
Something you have to apply data, evaluate data sets.
Yeah, I've been through that, and I've been doing that for a long time, in and out, when I was playing poker. And I just felt it was not for me. Not for me, because something in the back of my head knew that I had more potential, and I shouldn't be wasting my time in that office space, in that cubicle, in front of that computer with the man behind me, breathing down my neck. My time needed to be put somewhere else.
Well, that's why I feel if I really want to make money out of poker and spending hours and really putting the money that matter, rather than just 2-5 or even 5-10.
Right.
Then become a job. Then if it becomes a job, then I'd rather doing something else. I think I have better odds of succeeding and not getting bad beats. And can you talk about, are there other things you'd like to share with the people that are just branching into, and you just started learning poker, or people that are stuck in poker, or some of the things you like to just as a last word?
One thing I had to learn from the years in the game is to stop concerning yourself with the opinions of your peers, your competitors, you know, because they don't want the best for you. You're competing in the same market. They want you to fail, you know, and so you got to do what you have to do to succeed. And so one thing I've stopped caring about on the poker table or in poker in general is to stop caring what they think. You know, I'm going to do what I feel is the best for me, and they're going to do what they're best done for you. I'm not going to hate on them, right? And so my point is that, you know, in poker, like I was talking about back then with the judgmental attitude in the game,
yes,
I think a lot of players are influenced by the social aspect of poker. The social aspect in terms of like you said, like someone's gonna criticize you for playing in a certain way because of what they think the game should be played, like how they think, maybe how they study or what strategy that they learned. You gotta listen to that inner voice, and I encourage people to stop caring about what other players will think of you, because, you know, only you will know in that particular situation the reasons for why you're doing something. And I encourage people to try things more and to fail and to go back and not care that it looks stupid. Look, I'll admit it, I'll be lying if I said that I never cared about looking stupid at the poker table, right? After overall, like, poker is a social game, and
something like you're on television, like you're less likely inclined to call a bluff.
Yeah,
because you're like, how could you be so stupid,
we're
right?
Self-conscious.
Does that affect you if you're on television? That you were less likely to call a bluff?
Absolutely, but much less over the years, because I've known myself from that, and I've realized that, you know, as I'm in the game for longer and longer, growing older in this game, I've realized that shouldn't matter, you know. Like, the only thing that matters is my personal growth and my opinion on what I should do.
Wow,
in that situation.
that is so profound, because Andy, I agree with you in that, especially travel around the world and seeing different countries. There's definitely a trend towards uniformity.
That's one of the biggest challenges for me in the recent years. But it's getting easier for me is to stop caring and just do what I think that I should try, and just I think that helps the growth as a player. I think when you concern yourself with the opinion of others, you're limiting your growth, and you're going to stay stagnant.
Andy, can you talk a bit about what's the future in store, plan for Andy and a bit of GG Poker?
So I'm going to be traveling a lot more back and forth from the US and Asia. I'm looking forward to doing that. I'm going to continue playing on stream and playing poker in the US and going back and forth with that. With GG, I'm going to be playing a lot more online tournaments and interacting with Chinese players. What happens a lot is that you get stuck in doing the same thing, and like you're not challenged anymore. It gets boring, right? And so there's going to be obstacles and things like that. So I'm looking forward to trying it out.
Suffice to say, it's still a lot of poker.
It's still a lot of poker. It's still a lot of poker world, right? Exactly. Hopefully you guys can get something out of the questions that John asked me. You know, this is things that I honestly are just, you know, to my heart and speaking out my experiences and things like that. And yeah, we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you.